very privileged to have a wonderful performer with us. And I saw her a year and a half ago in Vancouver. And to be quite honest with you, I am not a classical person, that I sit at home and listen to classical music. And when I listened to her for about 3 minutes, I was on the edge of my seat. I could not believe what was coming out of the instrument that she played. So with that, sit back, relax, and be transported by Denise.
Documentary filmmaking, like telling any story, is about the 5 W's. So here we go. The Who, Denise Djokic, from Halifax, Nova Scotia, cellist. And David Jalbert, from Rimouski, Quebec, pianist. 2 of Canada's brightest young classical musicians. The what? Trying to find out what the state of classical music is in Canada today, and whether or not the stereotypes that often seem to be associated with it are true. The when? October of 2002. The where? Northern British Columbia. And the why? To find out whether, in an era dominated by 3-minute pop songs and music videos, classical music is still relevant. With these questions in mind, I set off to discover as much as I could about these young musicians.
My strap just broke. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to just take a little break. And go change into another shirt. Don't mind.
I felt so bad. The poor guy, I have to leave him all the time, forgetting music, forgetting whatever, and he has to sit there alone and wait for me to change or go get what I forgot.
Did you find it?
It's coming. Someone's looking for one, so... Oh, wait. You can hear me. Someone's just looking for one, so it should be here in a couple seconds. We'll just tune in. I'm sorry, I've done that so much. Okay. Oh, I wouldn't know what to do. I would just...
An idiot of myself. Entertains people.
No, you look so good when you're alone on stage. Like, you just entertain people, you make them laugh, and you're just so comfy up there, and I'm like spazzing out backstage looking for stands and music.
Because I have no self-esteem.
Oh God.
This is the key. Stop being self-conscious about anything.
I know.
I was like doing my triplet accompany.
I know,
I
know.
like,
It must have been really hard. No, I'm so sorry. Oh. See, that was part of the spacing out element of tonight.
Yeah, I
it
totally
just
hear you.
The stand and then moving close to the piano and not knowing what I'm going to say next to the audience.
Yeah.
But they probably feel very relaxed as well, so that's always a good thing. Right?
Well, yeah, we made such goofs of ourselves at the concert. How could they not be relaxed and confident? They won't feel like diminished, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
We didn't look imposing for a second out there.
No. It makes me so comfortable to tour with him. just, it makes me so happy. It's a great feeling. It's like going on a road trip with a friend, packing the car with all sorts of junk and and going to places we've never been to before, and just sort of seeing what's in store. Yeah. See, I'm on the right track.
You are. You could become a star.
I could play with the soft rock group.
Yeah, you could play with Lionel Richie. A tour like this would have been hell if Denise and I weren't like this, because you're together all the time, every minute of every day, every meal. You play those concerts together, you get through a lot of stress together, a lot of pressure, a lot of different hard experiences sometimes. You know, you really have to be able to live with other people for a long time, and getting along well really helps. We love the same music, I mean, not only classical music, but when we put CDs in the car, we always get along, we laugh at the same jokes, we just get along wonderfully, so that really, really helps. Otherwise, we would have killed each other by now. There's no way. You can't tour with somebody you don't like.
Look at her, young, graceful, and talented. Get out of town.
You're young, graceful, and talented.
I'm going to bring my car around and go this way, and I'll wait for you guys.
Don't overwhelm me with your grace and talent. It's absolutely staggering for me to watch her go. Every time I play with Denise, I feel energized, I feel inspired. She's never boring for a moment. Her sound is like velvet. I don't know how many times when she plays solo pieces and recitals, I get to sit backstage. I just sit there and I watch her play by herself, and I feel each time I'm just marveling at what she's doing. It's fabulous. The control she has over the instrument, the beauty of her tone, the way she makes things sing, the way she can't play a note out of tune. that is just so frustrating to anybody. She can't miss. She's so solid all the time. You know. She's got it all made for herself to be a great classical musician, and she is.
David's talent is something that inspires me tremendously. It's something that I think is so unique and so special. As a player, as a collaborator, he's extremely sensitive, and he's extremely sensitive to the cello sound, to the balance of the ensemble. He's so knowledgeable about all the music we're playing, about stylistic qualities. He has amazing ideas that just sort of pop off the top of his head. Okay, you know what? I've got to run back and check because the music just kind of slipped out of my folder here, so I will be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the real world of contemporary Canadian classical music. It isn't just the Glenn Gould types, locked in the deep, dark bowels of a recording studio. It's performers like Denise and David. They understood that in order to be successful, they had to be entertainers as well as musicians. They take their music seriously, but never themselves. Backstage, they were more rock and roll than Rachmaninoff. These two young artists were clearly having the time of their lives. It was an infectious enthusiasm that quickly won me over. I couldn't help but wonder, though, and this is one of those stereotypes that I mentioned at the beginning of the film, whether their enthusiasm would be enough to win over an audience in a place like small-town, rural British Columbia. After all, isn't classical music supposed to be played in the concert halls of big cities like New York and Toronto?
Houston is a lumber town. I'm not sure that there is usual entertainment. There aren't very many live music performances. You know, the Houston Concert Association puts on sort of classical music, but we don't have other singers coming through, not very much. So there isn't really usual entertainment. I mean, what people do is they watch movies, they rent videos. That's kind of the entertainment.
It used to be, even before 8 years ago when I started, we would have the symphonies come up, we would have the larger ensembles like the Winnipeg Ballet, and now we don't see those types of groups at all because they don't necessarily have to come and perform in the rural backyards of Canada as a contingency for their Canada Council grant anymore. So unless I get a very generous sponsor who's got $50,000, I don't think our community is going to see the symphony for a very long time. And that's really unfortunate because we are paying the same taxes as the communities that do get the symphony.
Usually we put on anywhere between 4 and 6 concerts a year. This year we've cut back a little bit because the local community has had some government layoffs and money is a bit tight, and so on. The softwood lumber dispute hasn't helped any.
People are sitting at home, we're not moving wood, we're not doing things. The government has basically just shut the north down, and we've got not only the ferry but other issues here that the government is just walking over, and we're not going to take it no more. We're quite prepared, if necessary, to try to get a movement started to start the 11th province and to keep our taxes in the north and to try to, we can look after our own resources and our own people.
Communities with resource-based economies that have been hit hard by government cutbacks, particularly funding for arts and culture. As a maritimer, I felt right at home in northern BC. I recognized and sympathized with both the frustration of being taken for granted by governments more concerned with the larger urban centers of this country. Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver popped to mind, and the fierce determination to persevere, the refusal to be marginalized.
To us, that's part of our council's mandate, is anything that has to do with arts and culture. Then that's what we want to bring to young people so that they realize that it's not just what's out there on TV and being brought in by satellite. And it's not just hockey and ice skating and hunting, that to have a healthy life you have to have all aspects, and arts and culture is very important. And with our education systems, with all the cutbacks, we are having less and less of arts in our schools.
Great. Oh. Well, it's a big improvement already. I see that you're using a little more bow, and your sound really opened up. Like it's a bigger sound, and it's a little more ringing now, and that's really the aim. And you look very comfortable. I think on the long notes when you finish. Da, 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 da.
One way to compensate for government cutbacks in arts and culture funding is to have those artists who come to these communities teach as well as perform, to share their unique knowledge and experience with young musicians in remote towns like Smithers, where Denise taught a master class in cello.
I found it so interesting to get such an enthusiastic crowd of not just cellists, but musicians or people who are interested in having music in their community out to this masterclass. It was really inspiring, actually, for me and flattering as well to be able to deliver something to the audience so that they can get something out of it.
I just noticed the times that you were, I don't, was it, if it was your memory or if you were feeling slightly out of control in here, but you, I mean, everywhere else you seem to have very good control of these passages, so it was probably just, I don't know.
When I lost it, yeah, that's a lot of quick string changes there too.
Yeah, well that's tricky, that's really tricky.
There's something about small town audiences that are just they're just genuine. They love it. They come here, they don't get a lot of concerts, and they really appreciate it. And you feel that gratitude from them, and it just opens you up. You feel freer playing, you have a lot of fun. You try things that maybe you wouldn't try in the big city because you wouldn't dare, but you end up playing better.
We play in venues usually which are accustomed to having the same types of ensembles all the time, week after week, and it's nice. You feel incredibly appreciated, and the audience, yeah. Well,
there's one thing that reminds me of, you might have to be prepared for people giving applause after every movement.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well, we don't mind that.
It's just, you know, it might.
I'm sure it happens,
So-
but we don't mind. I mean, seriously, it's.
But they will do it just because they like it, not
Yeah. Well, that's good to know.
So much for the stereotypical big city classical music audience. To paraphrase the words of the immortal poet Huey Lewis, I discovered that the heart of Canadian classical music is still beating. In places like Fort St. James, Houston, Smithers, Terrace, Kitimat, Prince Rupert, and all the other small towns like them across this country, where you'll find audiences embracing up-and-coming classical performers like Denise and David. Everything seemed to be going so well. It all looked easy for them. And I began to wonder whether there was a downside to this picture.
We spend lots and lots of time practicing. We spend hours practicing. We spend, weeks, months. Every day of our lives we try to practice and we rehearse and we spend those hours and hours and hours and hours gearing up, preparing for one moment, one concert, one moment that's going to last half hour, 45 minutes to an hour and a half. We try to plan ourselves for those moments but then again, there's no real way of knowing how you're going to feel when you're on stage, so, frustrating sometimes. I've had, nightmares where I've had experiences. I remember, being backstage at a concert. I had to learn the Dvorak concerto for the first time, and I had this dream. I still hadn't learned the third movement. In real life, I still hadn't learned the third movement of the concerto. And I had a limited amount of time, and I had this dream that I was backstage at the concert, learning the third movement of the concerto. And I was cramming and cramming, trying to learn and thinking, oh my God, how am I going to memorize this? I only have 15 minutes left. Oh no, no, no. And that's the kind of anxiety that you sometimes start to feel. Musicians are under time constraints like anyone else in the real world.
I'm just so frustrated. I don't know how I'm ever gonna learn this piece.
Don't worry. If worse comes to worse, if you can't do it, you won't do it. Period. Nobody's gonna force you to go on stage and play a piece you can't play if you haven't had time to learn it.
That's true.
And I don't know, if you can't learn it, nobody could. I hope that's true.
No,
in the same circumstances.
I think it's just a matter of time. I think if I had from now until then,
just that.
Nothing to do.
Of course.
Then I'd be okay, but...
You're playing a concert a day until then, it's fine. Nobody could do better than what you... I'm very convinced.
Well, if you say so, then I'm slightly more hopeful.
No, of course, and look, it's useless to worry about it. You do your best to get it ready, and if it's not ready, then you just don't do it, period.
Yeah. I know, but it's hard just to not do it. It's
Sure.
Anyway, I'm just not going to think about it. Now's not the time to think about it. Not the time. I just have to clear my head. I couldn't concentrate either. I was just sitting out there and I just couldn't get myself into it. I felt like I was concentrating too much on the negatives and the hall sounds bad and I can't make a sound and I don't hear anything coming back to me and it's just, yeah.
I didn't hear much of the Bach on the Vigie, but it was very good. And the Barber, you sounded beautiful.
Well, you sounded beautiful in the Barber. Yes, you did. That was my worst Barber of the tour. That was by far my worst.
Really?
Yeah, I feel that definitely.
Really? Yeah. I felt everything was totally into place and totally solid.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't feel swept away by the performance. I mean, mine.
Well, mine especially.
But yeah, it felt very clean and just. All the waiting, all the glisses, they're all totally into it.
I know, but I just felt like I couldn't get
into it. Sure, but you were playing very solidly.
Yeah.
And you sounded into it to me. It was very lyrical, I think.
Okay. See, it's so nice to have someone to just encourage you a little bit.
No, but I seriously mean
I don't know what's wrong.
Well, thank you.
You're a pussy. It's like, how bad can you be?
Oh, very bad.
Denise is tailor-made for classical music. She's made to be a classical music star. I mean, she just has it in her. It's her birthright somehow. And it's because of this. Denise can practice and howl and scream and not be happy about something. But when she sits out there and decides that it's going to work, it works. She has nerves of steel.
The self-criticism revealed two artists with exacting musical standards. But to the audience, and to me, it was spellbinding, magical, and perfect. But was it relevant? Look at these composers. Dead, gone, buried. They represent the last stereotype about classical music, and perhaps the most damning. That no matter how talented they may be, artists like Denise and David are playing the musical equivalent of Latin. Music written by people from another time and another place, with no connection to our lives today.
We have a Canadian piece for you tonight on the program, and it's by a composer originally from Nova Scotia. His name is Alistair MacLean. And he wrote this piece, One Becoming, for a tour that I did in the Atlantic provinces a little less than a year ago. And he actually came with us on the tour and critiqued it day by day, and we sort of saw how the piece developed and really came into an equal balance of our interpretation and his ideals for the piece. So here it is tonight, and it's a piece that's very meditative, but also has a lot of chaos and sort of inner trouble at times. It makes sort of an arching shape. It has different textures between the piano and the cello, which are very blended at the beginning and then start to differ in the middle and then eventually become one at the end. So we hope you enjoy it. Here it is.
Playing new music is paramount. I think it's just one of the most important things about what we're doing. The old classics are there. The Brahms concertos have been recorded over 1,000 times each. You know, it's nice sometimes to get your hands on some new music and feel like you still have something fresh to say about them without having to consider thousands of people that have played it before you and decided that the piece had to be this or the piece had to be that. It gives you a lot of freedom and a lot more intimate a contact with the music. And that really shows in the performance. And this music is there, it's good, and it's asking to be played, actually. A lot of it is not being played, and it's such a shame. And it's such a pleasure when you can get your hands on a new Canadian work. This one was written for Denise. You just pick it up, it's for you, and you bring it out to people. And this piece is beautiful. It's, you know, it's a win-win situation, really. The composer gets to be played, gets to be heard, and we get a piece that nobody else has.
We wanted a Canadian work on the program. It was important to us to have a work by a Canadian composer. There's so much great Canadian music out there, and for that reason it was difficult to make a decision about what to play or what to learn. But in this case, I had just experienced so much success with the piece on the past tour that I thought it would be a strong choice for this one, and it really was. I think it worked out really well. People seemed to love the piece, and we had great feedback. It was always interesting for us after the concerts to hear what people thought of the pieces, what pieces had appealed to them and for what reasons.
I really like the McLean piece.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
In fact, several people around me said how much they liked it.
Well, it was a good performance of it tonight.
Yeah.
You should record that piece.
Maybe we will.
Yeah.
You should, because it's fabulous.
Classical music, I think, just cannot die. A lot of people keep predicting the death of, you know, high art, if you want. But it's just not happening. The thing is, people will keep growing into it all the time. You know, there's so much horrible canned pop being made today, and actually it gets worse as time goes. I mean, I was born in '77, and I've been hearing and listening to rock music for all this time, pretty much, and I survived the '80s, which is not, you know, a little thing to do, and things just get so bad, and now I can't stand listening to canned pop anymore. I just can't hear it. It gets on my nerves so bad. And I know it happens with a lot of people that are young and are into this, or into death metal, or into country, and then their tastes just evolve into classical music. So the audience, it's not enormous, but it'll always be there.
What really is the future of classical music? How is it that this music can survive for so long, and how can it possibly survive for another 100,000 of years? Who knows? I mean, it's a really tough thing to predict where we'll be and where our music will be in an allotted period of time. But nevertheless, I do feel very optimistic about it. I think that as long as there is great music and people who love great music and want to perform it, want to listen to it, there will always be a future. I think that wherever there is a love for something and an appreciation for something, I think that will always give it life, no matter how old it is. No matter where it's come from, it's really never ending. It's something that can exist long beyond a lifetime, if there is still that love for the music and the will to want to explore that music, to want to make that a part of one's life.
Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. When you're making documentary films, when you get to the end, you go back to the beginning, to the 5 questions that every filmmaker must answer. The Who, Denise Djokic and David Jalbert, 2 of the most talented young classical musicians in Canada today. The What, the state of classical music in Canada today, doing just fine, thanks. And not only in the big cities, everywhere. The When, October 2002. The Where, well, that was Northern British Columbia. And the why? Well, if you still have to ask that question, you just haven't been listening.